Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're here, I bet you're ready to boost your teamwork skills. You want to figure out your role, make a real impact, and just nail that whole collaboration thing, even when you're working remotely, right?
Absolutely. And you've come to the right place. We're going deep into a resource they use down under, Australia for business services training.
Cool. So what's the name of this resource?
It's called BSBXTW301 Work in a Team, part of their whole certification package.
Okay. And it's for Australia, but I'm guessing teamwork basics apply everywhere, right?
Oh, totally. The principles are universal,
Yep.
whether you're in a busy office in Sydney or, zooming in from different continents.
It reminds me of this project I worked on once. Everyone was so focused on their own little tasks. We totally forgot to actually work together.
Oh, I know that feeling.
You had deadlines flying by, things were slipping through the cracks. It was a mess.
Yeah, classic example of missing those team fundamentals. Like, imagine building a house without a blueprint. Disaster. And that's where this resource starts. It really emphasizes knowing your role in the team. It even gets into the different team structures you might find yourself in.
Okay, so break it down for me. What kind of structures are we talking about?
Well, you've got your project teams. Those are formed for a specific task,
Mm-hmm.
like launching a new product. Then once it's done, poof, team's gone.
Gotcha. Temporary teams.
Then there are cross-functional teams. That's where you get people from different departments all working together. Like you might have marketing, finance, engineering folks all on the same team.
So many different perspectives. That's got to be interesting.
Exactly. And that mix often leads to some really creative solutions too. Oh, and then you've got self-directed work teams. These guys have a ton of autonomy. Basically, they manage themselves.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It can be. It's super empowering, but also requires like a rock-solid sense of responsibility. No one to babysit you. Now, within all these different team setups, this resource talks about 4 key roles that really make teamwork tick. Idea generators, project leaders, gatekeepers, and coaches. But, and this is important, these aren't like job titles set in stone.
So it's more about what the function you play on the team.
Exactly. One person might wear multiple hats, and the roles can shift depending on what the team's working on at that moment.
So it's not like you walk into a meeting and everyone's got a little name tag like, "Hi, I'm the gatekeeper."
Right. Way more fluid than that. It's about recognizing your strengths and how they can best help the team. Take idea generators, for instance.
Hmm.
These are your big picture thinkers, often with specialized knowledge that helps them see solutions others miss. They're the ones who keep things fresh and innovative. Help the team break out of those ruts. We've always done it this way kind of thinking.
Oh, they're essential, especially during brainstorming sessions, right? Someone to shake things up.
Yeah, 100%. Then you've got project leaders. They're your organizers, your delegators, the folks who keep the project on track, make sure everyone's moving in the same direction. They're good with logistics, but also with people.
So it's not just about managing the tasks. It's about managing people, too.
Yeah, striking that balance can be tricky. Now, gatekeepers, they're a different breed. Think of them as information hubs. Always up to date on industry trends, connecting with experts outside the team, bringing all that valuable info back to the group.
Well, I bet they're the ones coming back from conferences with, notebooks overflowing with ideas.
You got it. And then there's the coaches, part of the team. These folks always offering support and encouragement. They're amazing at recognizing individual strengths, then helping people develop those skills even further.
Sounds like that role takes a lot of, empathy and active listening skills.
Oh, for sure. A good coach can create such a positive and supportive environment where everyone feels valued, everyone's motivated to, do their best work. But here's the thing, figuring out those roles, it's just the first step. To really succeed as a team, you need clear goals. And this resource is a big fan of the SMART criteria.
I've heard of SMART goals, but honestly, I sometimes get lost in those acronyms. What do they stand for again? Just a refresher.
Sure. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So instead of a vague goal like, let's improve customer satisfaction, which is a good thought, you'd have a SMART goal.
Yeah.
Like increase our customer satisfaction rating by 5% in the next quarter by implementing a new online feedback system.
Ah, okay. So you're basically taking a vague idea and turning it into something concrete. You can actually track your progress and there's a deadline.
Exactly. It gives everyone a clear target to aim for.
Yeah.
And another important point that this resource makes, simply setting those SMART goals isn't enough.
Meaning.
It's all about team participation during the planning stages. It can't just be a top-down directive.
So everyone gets to contribute their ideas and thoughts. I like it.
Right. It's about using the brainpower of the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
And the resource even has some tips on how to make those planning discussions really effective.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, one tip is to break down those big, scary goals into smaller steps. Easier to manage, right?
Okay.
And then as the team achieves those smaller milestones, you can celebrate those little wins along the way. Builds momentum, keeps everyone motivated.
That's a really good point. I know I've felt totally overwhelmed by projects that just seemed enormous. Like, where do you even begin? But if you chunk it down, suddenly it feels doable.
Exactly. Another big thing for effective teamwork is embracing diversity.
And I don't just mean diversity in terms of, like, backgrounds or demographics,
Yeah.
right? It's about diversity of thought, experience, all of it.
Absolutely. This resource really gets into how to communicate effectively with team members from all different walks of life.
And that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because even when everyone has good intentions, cultural differences can sometimes lead to misunderstandings.
Definitely. And that's where this resource offers some great guidance. It talks about communicating with team members with special needs, working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues, and also folks from other diverse cultural backgrounds.
So it goes beyond just like a basic awareness of diversity. It's about real inclusivity.
Exactly. For example, with team members who have special needs, it's important to be upfront about preferred communication methods. Some people do great with video calls, while others might find written communication more comfortable.
hmm
Maybe they need some assistive tech or visual aids.
You've got to create an environment where everyone feels comfortable communicating in a way that works for them. Love it.
Right. And when you're working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues, it's super important to be sensitive to their cultural protocols, respect for elders, using clear language, recognizing the importance of oral traditions, things like that. And sometimes you might even need a translator, especially if some team members primarily speak an indigenous language.
Really highlights how important clear communication is and making sure everyone feels understood.
For sure. And when you're working with people from all different cultures, it's helpful to be aware of those subtle cues that can mean totally different things to different people.
Like, I remember reading that in some Asian cultures, silence during a conversation is actually seen as a sign of respect. But in Western cultures, it can feel really awkward.
Perfect example. This resource dives into all those cross-cultural communication nuances. It explains the difference between, like, high-context cultures and low-context cultures.
Mm.
High-context cultures, like in Japan, they rely a lot on nonverbal cues and shared understanding. Whereas low-context cultures, like the U.S., they're much more direct and explicit in their communication style.
So that's why some colleagues might seem to beat around the bush, while others are super blunt. It's not about being evasive or rude, it's just their cultural background coming through.
Exactly. And understanding those differences is super important for building strong, respectful relationships within a team. The resource also talks about hierarchy, how some cultures are more comfortable with a very clear chain of command, while others prefer things to be more egalitarian. And then there's a whole thing about openness. Some cultures are just naturally more reserved when it comes to expressing opinions, while others are very assertive.
It's about striking that balance, right? Being true to your own cultural background, but also being adaptable enough to navigate all those differences. And speaking of adapting, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the rise of remote work. It's brought on a whole new set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely. It's changed the way we work and communicate. And the resource definitely acknowledges that shift.
So what kind of guidance does it offer for those of us who are, living in the world of Zoom meetings and shared Google Docs?
Well, for starters, it stresses how important it is to use technology effectively.
Yeah, because let's face it, a bad internet connection or a clunky video conferencing platform can really throw a wrench in the works.
Oh, for sure. The resource actually lists specific tools that can be super helpful for remote teams. Beyond the obvious ones like phones and email, it talks about collaborative apps, different video conferencing platforms, project management software, time tracking tools, cloud storage, even platforms for working on documents together.
Wow, it's like a whole digital toolkit for remote teams. But having the tools is one thing, knowing how to use them effectively is another, right?
You nailed it. The resource goes beyond just listing the tools. It gives some real practical tips on how to make remote teamwork go smoothly. For example, it really stresses how important it is to set up clear communication channels and schedules.
No more sending urgent messages through a platform no one ever checks.
Exactly. And it also talks about setting clear expectations and priorities. Because, let's be honest, working from home can be distracting.
You've got kids running around, maybe a noisy neighbor, or, hey, even that pile of laundry calling your name.
So it's all about finding ways to stay focused and get things done even when you don't have that traditional office structure.
Makes sense. So we've covered roles within a team, setting SMART goals, navigating diversity, and even the whole remote work dynamic. But what happens when conflicts arise, when team members just don't see eye to eye, or when things just go wrong?
That's a great question. It takes us to another really important aspect of teamwork, which is effective communication with team leaders.
Yeah, that relationship can make or break a team, can't it? Especially when it comes to receiving feedback, understanding instructions, and navigating those workplace issues that always seem to pop up.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we'll dive into in part 2. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone. So before we got sidetracked talking about all the ins and outs of remote work, we were talking about those inevitable moments when, well, things don't go exactly as planned.
Right, those times when maybe there's conflict between team members or just things go sideways. And that's where the relationship between team members and their leaders really comes into play.
I've definitely had those moments where, like, a lack of communication with the team leader turned a minor hiccup into a major disaster. It's like 1 minute we're all good, the next it's total chaos.
Oh, yeah, the dangers of miscommunication. And this resource actually gives some really practical tips on how to smooth out that communication process,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to understanding instructions from your team leader.
Okay, so let's say I get a new assignment from my team leader. I'm excited to jump in, but I also want to make sure, that we're both on the same page about what needs to happen. What's the best way to start?
Well, before you dive into action, take a moment to really listen. And I don't just mean hearing the words, I mean really engaging with what your team leader's saying, picking up on the verbal and nonverbal cues.
Oh, I like that. It's like that saying, listen to understand, not just to reply.
Exactly. And sometimes those nonverbal cues can be super important. Pay attention to their tone of voice, their body language, even their facial expressions. All those things can give you a lot of context, help you understand the nuances of what they're asking for.
Okay, so I'm actively listening, taking it all in. What's next?
Well, while you're listening, take notes. Jot down the main points, deadlines, and any specific procedures that they mention. Basically, anything that you think is essential for getting the job done.
I'm a big note taker, but sometimes I feel a little self-conscious about it. Like, should I be typing away on my laptop or scribbling in a notebook? Is one more professional than the other?
Honestly, it depends on the situation and what you're most comfortable with. Some people process information better when they type it out. Others prefer, that hands-on feeling of writing. The main thing is that you're able to accurately record the information without getting distracted
Yeah.
or distracting others.
Oh, good point. I once had a colleague who was such a loud typer. Every meeting, it was click, clack, like impossible to focus.
We've all been there. But the key is to find that balance between being thorough and being present. Now, here's a pro tip. Once your team leader's done explaining the task, repeat those instructions back to them, but in your own words.
Oh, like a teach back. I've used that when I'm teaching, but never really thought to use it in the workplace.
It's surprisingly effective. By paraphrasing the instructions, you're not only showing them that you are listening, but you're also giving them a chance to clarify anything that might have been unclear or, correct any misunderstandings you might have and all that before you even start working.
It's like that old saying, measure twice, cut once. Better to double check up front than to spend hours going down the wrong path.
Exactly. And don't hesitate to ask questions. Seriously, if something is unclear, speak up. It's so much better to ask for clarification than to make assumptions and end up making a costly mistake.
I know, but there's always that fear of sounding clueless, like, I should know this already.
I get it. But trust me, asking a stupid question is way better than making a stupid mistake. Your team leader would much rather you clarify something right away than to find out later that you've been working under the wrong assumptions.
That makes sense. Okay, so I've listened carefully, taken notes, rephrased the instructions, asked all my questions, feeling pretty good. But what if the task is super complicated? Like lots of different steps, deadlines, things to keep track of.
That's when checklists are your best friend. Break down that big task into smaller, more manageable chunks, and then use a checklist to track your progress. It might seem simple, but it's super effective for staying organized and making sure you don't miss anything important.
I love a good checklist. It's so satisfying to tick those boxes as you go. Plus, it really helps with that feeling of overwhelm.
Totally. Now, even with all the best communication in the world, sometimes life just happens.
Right. People get sick, there are family emergencies, or maybe you just need a mental health day. It happens.
Exactly. And this resource really stresses how important it is to let your team leader know about those personal commitments as soon as possible. And professionally.
So no more sending that panic text at 7 a.m. saying, sorry, can't make it in today.
No, definitely not the best approach. The key is to be proactive, respect everyone's time. A good place to start is to check your company's policies. Some places have specific procedures for requesting time off.
Yeah, you don't want to send a casual email if there's like a formal process you need to follow.
Exactly. And when you do reach out to your team leader, use the appropriate channels. If your team uses a project management platform for official stuff, that's probably a better bet than a quick text message.
You definitely don't announce your vacation plans on social media before telling your boss.
Right. Just keep it clear, concise, and professional. Give them the dates, the times, and a brief explanation. And if you can, offer solutions. Maybe suggest a colleague who can cover some of your work, or maybe get ahead on some tasks before you take a break.
It shows you're still thinking about the team, even when you're not there.
Love it. Okay, so we've talked about clear communication with team leaders, but what about when things go wrong, like really wrong? Equipment breaks, deadlines get missed, people clash, those workplace issues that can really derail a team, even if everyone has the best intentions.
That's where this resource gets really interesting. It breaks down these workplace issues into 4 main categories. You've got equipment issues, communication issues, interpersonal issues, and performance issues.
So we're talking everything from like a laptop dying to a colleague who's constantly gossiping to someone who's just not pulling their weight.
You got it. And the key is being able to spot these issues early on, before they snowball into major problems.
That makes sense. But how do we do that? Do we just like sit around and hope someone speaks up? Or do we actively look for problems? There are definitely more proactive things you can do. The resource suggests using things like workplace health and safety. Yeah, I get it. It can be a little nerve-wracking. But honestly, feedback is so important for growth, both individually and as a team. The resource actually differentiates between personal performance and personal behavior.
That's interesting. What's the difference?
So personal performance is all about your individual skills and knowledge, your strengths, weaknesses, areas where you could improve. Whereas personal behavior is more about how you conduct yourself in the workplace, your attitude, your communication style, how professional you are.
So it's looking at both what you do and how you do it.
Precisely. And both of those areas can be improved through feedback. And that feedback can come from your team leader, your colleagues, even clients or customers.
But the key is to actually listen to that feedback and, use it to make positive changes.
You got it. The resource actually lays out a 5-step process for acting on feedback. First, you really listen to what the person's saying, ask clarifying questions if you need to. Then, you try to get some specific examples that illustrate the feedback they're giving you. Makes it more concrete, less abstract.
So instead of just hearing, you need to be more organized, you'd get specific examples like, here are 2 times when your lack of organization caused problems for the project.
Exactly. And then, based on those specific examples, you and the person giving you feedback, you work together to create an action plan. This outlines the steps you'll take to address the feedback, a time frame, and how you'll track your progress.
So it's a collaborative thing. It's not just them telling you what to do.
Right. Then comes the hard part, putting that plan into action. It's really important to document your progress, track your results, and keep the person who gave you the feedback updated. It keeps everyone in the loop, and you can make adjustments as needed.
Makes sense. And then finally, you review the results of the action plan together, celebrate the wins, and identify any areas where you could still improve. So it's like this ongoing feedback loop.
Exactly. And this whole process of giving and receiving feedback, it's closely connected to another really important aspect of teamwork: accountability.
Accountability. That word can make people a little uncomfortable, right? It often feels like it's all about blame and punishment.
Yeah, I understand why people might feel that way. But accountability doesn't have to be negative. In fact, when it's embraced effectively, it can be super empowering. It's really about taking ownership of your actions, both the good and the bad.
So it's about being responsible for your contributions to the team, whatever those contributions might be.
Exactly. And it's not just about pointing fingers when something goes wrong. It's also about recognizing and celebrating those moments when you exceed expectations. It's about being honest with yourself and with your team, about your strengths and areas for improvement.
When you put it like that, accountability sounds less like a burden and more like a path to growth. I like it.
And you know what happens when a team truly embraces accountability?
Ooh, tell me.
Trust starts to grow.
Trust. That's interesting. How does accountability lead to trust?
Think about it. When you know that your teammates are reliable, that they'll own up to their mistakes, and that they're committed to doing their best. It gives you a sense of security.
Right.
You know you can depend on them.
Yeah, it's like you know they've got your back no matter what.
Exactly. And that feeling of trust, that's the foundation for any high-performing team. It opens up communication, reduces conflict, and just creates a more positive, supportive environment overall.
Wow. This has been such an insightful look at teamwork. We've talked about understanding roles, communication styles, navigating challenges, all sorts of things. It's amazing how something that seems so simple on the surface can be so complex.
It's true. Teamwork is a journey, not a destination. And like any journey, it's going to have bumps along the way. But by keeping these principles in mind, clear communication, active listening, respect for each other, and a commitment to accountability, we can build teams that are not just productive, but also really fulfilling.
I love that analogy. Okay, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a question to think about. Something to reflect on as you continue your own teamwork adventures.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. I like it. What's the question?
Okay, here it is. Think about everything we've discussed today. The roles, the goals, the communication, the feedback, the accountability. What's one small change you can make today to become a better team player?
That's a powerful question. It really challenges each of us to take responsibility for creating a more collaborative and supportive team environment. And, the amazing thing is, even tiny changes can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
They can create positive change that goes way beyond ourselves.
It's like that butterfly effect.
Yeah.
One small action can set off a chain of events that leads to something incredible.
Oh.
So, to everyone listening out there, you have the power to make a difference. Start small, be consistent, and watch as your efforts help your teams transform from good to great.
And as we get ready for the final part of our deep dive, I want to share a quote by the legendary basketball coach Phil Jackson. He said, "The strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team."
That's beautiful. It really highlights how interconnected we are. We each play a vital role in the success of the team.
Exactly. And when we support each other, challenge each other, and hold each other accountable, we can accomplish truly extraordinary things.
Well said. We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive into teamwork. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep collaborating. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into teamwork. So before the break, we were talking about accountability and how it's not always about pointing fingers when someone messes up.
It's more about shared responsibility, a team commitment to, really striving for excellence.
And you were saying that when team members feel accountable not just to themselves but to each other, it creates this really special dynamic.
Yeah, trust. That's when real trust starts to build. Like imagine accountability is the soil and trust is the flower that grows from it.
I like that. But like any garden, it takes work to cultivate that trust, right? You don't just plant a seed and expect it to magically blossom overnight.
You're absolutely right. Trust takes time. It takes consistent effort. You have to show up, prove yourself to be reliable, have integrity, and really truly be committed to the team's goals.
So let's get specific. How can we as individuals really nurture that accountability and build trust within our teams? What are some practical things we can do?
Well, a lot of it starts with being self-aware, honestly assessing your strengths and weaknesses, and being willing to admit when you've made a mistake.
Yeah, but that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
No one likes to admit they messed up, especially at work.
Oh, I know. You can feel really vulnerable. But honestly, that vulnerability can be really powerful too. Because when you're open about your imperfections, it gives other people permission to do the same. It creates a safe space.
I get it. It's like saying, hey, I'm not perfect, and that's okay. We all make mistakes, and we can learn from each other.
Exactly. And another super important ingredient for trust is transparency. Keep your team in the loop. Let them know how things are progressing on your tasks, any roadblocks you're hitting, decisions you're making that might affect them. No one likes to be left in the dark.
Right. No more working in silos. Communication is key.
Absolutely. And when it comes to making decisions, try to involve the relevant team members, get their input. That kind of collaborative approach not only leads to better decisions, but also makes people feel more invested in the outcome.
Makes everyone feel like they're part of something bigger.
Exactly. And speaking of feeling good, don't forget to celebrate your wins, both big and small. Acknowledge and appreciate each other's contributions. It just creates such a positive vibe.
Yeah, it builds team morale. Everyone feels valued and respected.
Right. Because at the end of the day, teamwork isn't just about checking boxes off a list. It's about building something meaningful together.
That sense of accomplishment. Achieving something as a team, it's a great feeling. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into teamwork, I want to encourage all of you listening to think back on your own experiences. Think about those times when you were part of a team where you really felt that sense of trust and accountability. What made those teams so special? What can you take from those experiences and bring to your current teams?
And remember, it's a journey. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. There will be challenges for sure. But by sticking to those core principles, you know, communicating clearly, listening to each other, showing respect, and being accountable for your actions, we can create teams that are not just productive, but actually really enjoyable to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for our deep dive on teamwork. We hope this has given you some valuable insights and maybe even inspired you to make some positive changes in your own teams.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time.